Hello, adventurers, travelers, and friends, and welcome back to a Bragworthy Adventures video. I'm your host, Rose. So today we are going to be talking about tickets. I am planning a trip around the world from the US to Africa, all through Southeast Asia, and then Oceania, and back to the US. How am I gonna get there? How am I gonna go from here to there? Now, there are kind of three routes that I see in my mind of how you can do this. The first one is kind of what you hear of most, which is you get your tickets as you go. So you fly to one place, and once you're there, and you feel like you're ready to move on, then you look online, you buy a ticket, and you go to the next place. Which might work great if you're not a type A planner who would stress out constantly about needing to know what flight she's on. So that's definitely not the route I'm going to go, but it has worked for some people. Getting some of their flights and then continuing to buy flights as they go, because they think it helps them save money. It also helps provide a certain amount of flexibility so they can change plans as they go. The second route that is kind of brought up when you're looking for how to get flights around the world are round the world alliance tickets. So if you don't know what an airline alliance is, that is when a group of airlines come together to work together and they have a round the world trip ticket that they offer. So there are three alliances: Star Alliance, One World, and SkyTeam. So I'll give you an example of some of the airlines that are incorporated in the alliances. Star Alliance, probably the most notable name would be United Airlines is in there. There's also New Zealand Air, and then there's a whole list of Air Canada, Air China, Air India, and they work together. So when you use a round the world trip ticket from them, you can use any of these airlines, but it is restricted to those airlines. One World, the most notable names are probably American Airlines and British Airways. There's also Finnair, Qantas, and Sri Lanka Airlines. And then last, SkyTeam, the one that I recognized was Delta. They've also got Aeroflot, if that's how you say it, China Eastern, Kenya Airways. So each one of these airlines are restricted to their members when you're using a round the world trip ticket. Generally, the rules are very similar. You can only go in one direction, and you can only cross the Pacific or Atlantic once, and then you also must start and end your trip in the same country. And that's what makes it a round the world trip ticket. They also sometimes have a restriction on the amount of segments you're allowed to have, the amount of flights you're allowed to have, how many flights you can have in portions of the world, and that can add some complications. So I went in, and I don't know exactly what cities I'll be flying into for each portion of my trip, but relatively the big name cities, I put those in for the 12 countries I'm going to see what the results would be on these round the world trip ticket databases. The first one I did was Star Alliance, and it came out with a total price of $13,000 for two people to the places I'm planning on going to. Then I tried One World. Apparently I had too many segments in Asia, and so they couldn't allow it. And then I did SkyTeam, and they just said I had too many segments in all, which I thought was funny. They said I had more than 22 segments when I only have 12, 13 cities I'm flying into. But what that could mean is, in order to fly to this city, I'd have to fly here and here, have some stopovers, that sort of thing. And it reached more than their capacity. So I couldn't even get results for two of the round the world trip ticket options. And the only one I did get was for $13,000. Now, the third option is a privatized ticketing company that helps you figure out your flights and helps you create a plan that has access to all the airlines, because they're not confined to just an alliance. And the person I'm talking about is Airtreks. And I got really interested in them after listening to a podcast and doing some research on my own and having their name kind of pop up in the searches. Some of the things I like is that, they aren't confined to airlines. You get a personal help travel planner to help you figure out your tickets. So they have the knowledge of how to do open jaws and stopovers in ways that can help you save on money and get to the places you want to go. And they handle it for you. And then they send you all your tickets. But of course, I had some questions. And so since we're in the middle of a pandemic right now, I know they are overwhelmed with people probably calling, needing to change flights. So I decided to send them an email, and I got a response within 24 hours answering my questions and being so thorough with their answers. It was amazing. So I'm already really looking forward to working with these people. So let me tell you a little bit about them. They have been in business since 1987. They all work independently. There's no like main office because they believe in being able to work from wherever you are. They have expert advice from experienced travelers. All of them have traveled before, have been around. They know what it's like to fly with these airlines, and they know what it's like to do an around the world trip. And then they've got a bunch of great reviews. So they also have 24/7 support, also allow you to be more flexible so you aren't bound to this whole one direction, start in the same place, end in the same place or same country, certain amount of segments. They don't have restrictions. It's really from anywhere to anywhere. You make the plan, they help you figure it out. So because there's so much flexibility and there's so much personal assistance, Airtreks is a really attractive option. Now, as for my questions that I had for Airtreks that you might be wondering too, I thought I would share the things I learned about them, and then you can decide what way works for you when you start figuring out tickets for your big trip. And I will most likely be using Airtreks. So one of the first questions me and my husband had with using a system like this where someone else plans your tickets is, what if you need to pull an audible, right? So like, let's say I'm in Singapore and I'm only supposed to be in Singapore for a week, but I meet some awesome people and I want to stay longer, or I want to fly to the Philippines, which isn't even on my list. What do I do? Can they help me? Will there be extra fees? How's this gonna work? They said that they have their support team that works 24/7. You can call them and get fixes if it's further out, but if it's last minute, you might have better luck going straight to the airline, which you can do. So I'm not restricted to only work through them. If I need to talk to the airline, I can talk to the airline too, which is really accommodating. And that helps alleviate extra fees for me as well, because if we need to change something and we go to Airtreks and there's a $100 change fee, but Airtreks tells you go to the airline and then you only have to do the airline's change fees if you do it yourself for this one change, especially if it's within 24 hours of your departure. The other question I had was about points. So I have a Chase Sapphire Preferred card and I use it to buy all sorts of stuff, and so I'm accumulating points and I want to know if I can use those. Because if I did the book it myself as I go option, of course I could use my own points. Now, they said technically they cannot use my points themselves, but they can work with me to find flights where I can book that one myself so that I can apply my points. Because there's no way for me to transfer my points to them so that when they make the booking, then they apply the points. It just doesn't, the systems don't work that way. But they are accommodating to the fact that you do want to use your points, and so they'll help you work in ways to use your points, and they can incorporate it into their itinerary even if they didn't book that flight because you booked it to use your points. So that's one of the things I like about working with a person and not with an online system, is you can change and have flexibility and have these random nuances that you can't have when you're working with a computer. It's just zeros and ones, people. There's no other options. They also allow you to type in all your rewards numbers, so on the flights that they book, you still get points. And they allow you to do overland travel, so let's say you're gonna be flying into one place and then driving throughout and flying out of somewhere else, they can handle that as well. Questions I had is, when do I book? When do I do this? Is it booked all at once, or is it flights over time? Is it payment all at once, or is it payment like little by little? How does that work? So this is how they told me it works. They said, you book it all at once and you pay all at once. You don't have to, but you'll end up saving money because flights can fluctuate if you wait on them. And it's not like Airtreks sets the airline flight prices, they just find you the best ones. So if you book right then you know you've locked in those flights rather than waiting and having them fluctuate and having them change. So they do say it's best to book all at once, but you don't have to. You can book some at a time if you need to. The next question I had is, if someone else is booking my flights, am I going to be consulted on seating and on luggage requirements, those sorts of things? Because I am trying to bring one backpack for this whole trip, and if that's a heavy backpack, is it going to be allowed on the airlines as a carry-on? I need to know. They said I'm consulted. Some airlines don't allow you to pick seats, and others do, but I can give my preferences and I can be consulted for each one. Some airlines don't even allow you to pick a seat until you've checked in, so that would be closer to when I'm actually flying. And we'll be advised of all seating selections and luggage allowances. So that is everything I know about the 3 ways to fly around the world. I'm going to be using Airtreks. I hope whichever option you choose, you have an amazing adventure. I'm really looking forward to my brag-worthy adventure, and I can't wait to start working with Airtreks. I'll make sure to incorporate you guys in the process so you see what it's like. If you don't know what my brag-worthy adventure is or what trip I'm planning right now, check the link right up here, or maybe it's here, and you can find out more. And as always, thanks so much for watching. Please subscribe, and bye, travelers.